Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my co-host, Michael Reed.
What's up?
And
That's
we're
something.
and we're also joined by special guest Adam Aniba, who we've had on before, and I'm glad to have you back on, brother. How you doing?
Hey, good man. Thanks for having me back, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, and we have a bunch to talk about. Hall is going to join us at some point. I'm pretty sure. I'm not really sure where he is after the employee party. I'm not sure how good a
I think I
shape
know
he's
where he
in.
is. I think Hall. I think I heard Hall was having too good of a time at the employee party.
Yeah, that's exactly where he was. But look, we have a great show lined up for you guys. We're going to talk about Cam going to New England and the kind of effect that's going to have on the rest of the league. And then obviously we're going to talk about the Redskins and latest and greatest news regarding the Redskins, and not really great ones at that. And then we're going to talk about an article that Adam is actually going to be coming out with very soon. So without further ado, let's get into the meat of the podcast right now. And as of late, this today just came across, FedEx, Nike, and Pepsi have all asked the Redskins to change the name. Adam, I'll go to you first with this. What is your immediate reaction to hearing that? Do you think it's going to be that important?
Yeah, it's gonna, like I said to you before we started, it's gonna be a storyline as long as this team is losing. You know, once this team starts winning and the support comes back, the people that matter, which are the local people, the people in the DMV, then it's all about winning. And like I said to you earlier too, we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar commitment to change a name. If they said they were going to change the name and have all their apparel recalled by 2023, that would be optimistic, and that would probably cost in the realm, I'm sure, because Redskins have fans all around the world. Like, as people know, especially in the UK, you're talking about, again, I'm just throwing a number out, probably anywhere between 10 to 20 billion dollars in merchandise. They'd have to basically buy back, and the NFL would have to agree with it with the owners. So, I understand what's going on in the current climate, but I think, just my opinion, but I think they need to stick to the issues at hand right now. And I think if this was the first time it was coming up, this would be a totally different story. We would have to, listen to it, sit down, hear both sides. But this is something, as fans, we've been going through decades.
Yeah.
So it's nothing new. It's went through the courts. I'm not one of those guys that says that's it, whatever. But Snyder is the one that said that's it, and no discussion about it in all caps. So, me personally, to me, it's just a non-story, because I think if it doesn't matter personal feelings. It's a financial, it's a checks and balances thing. It's not going to happen anytime soon if it does happen.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you. I really don't think it is going to happen. Like you said, Snyder said you can put it in all caps, we're never going to change the name. And I know this is a lot of pressure, but at the same time, all they're doing is asking the Redskins to change to the name. It's not like they're sitting here saying, we are going to withdraw our sponsorship unless you change it. Yeah, because in that case, the Redskins would say, okay, bye. See you later. But so Reed, let me get your reaction, because this is another topic that keeps piling on. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that if the sponsors did withdraw, I think that there would be a lot of other sponsors lined up to take their spot. I mean, there's so many companies out there that would love to get their name out there a little bit more, that would love to be associated with the pro sports team. That I don't think it would even really matter too much. But to go back to what Adam was saying, if the Redskins did start winning, let's just say that the Redskins do what Bucky Brooks said and made the Super Bowl this year. Could you imagine the ads that would be taken out during the Super Bowl for the Redskins to change their name?
Yeah, the boy cat would,
indigenous people of America.
Small.
Yeah. it would be interesting to see, though. I think it would be funny, but I don't think that anything's ever going to happen. Like Dan Snyder said, I don't think that he's ever plans on changing the name. I think it would take something very drastic, and like Adam said, I think winning can just cure a lot of this.
Yeah, and something came about again today saying, the Redskins can't go to RFK unless they change the name. We already knew that. Mario Bowser
going on for
Mario Bowser said that weeks ago. Look, we get it, we understand. I don't know why it's being regurgitated back at us, but at the end of the day, I said this on the Redskins Tweet Team podcast. And I'll say it again. What does this have to do with the Native American community? Does changing the name do anything for them? And secondly, this country, we did in our past, we tried to wipe out the Native Americans 150%. I'm not going to sit here and argue that we didn't. My whole thing is, we tried to forget about them once. why are we going ahead and trying to forget about them again?
And that's their stance.
They
right.
should
and that's
be
a lot of
honored.
the stance. Yeah,
Right.
They
exactly.
should
That's
be
my
honored.
stance.
They should have a pedestal. We should remember them, and we shouldn't just forget them. I think it's kind of I think this whole situation is kind of ridiculous. Because I don't think it's a negative. Obviously, like, I'm a white guy, I get it, but I don't understand the whole negative connotation with all this. It almost seems like it's pumped up for nothing. It almost seems like the people that should care about it don't, and the people that shouldn't care about it do, and it's a really weird situation in my opinion.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I think that it's at this point it's well known amongst the Redskins faithful and amongst Redskins fans how a lot of the Native Americans and people like that feel about it, and a lot of them do wear it as a badge of honor. And just because some people, a lot of white people are offended about it right now, I don't think it really matters, or shouldn't matter, at least to me. I don't know.
Yeah, and I understand the
We
argument.
already gave them casinos too. You know, I'm just I'm sorry.
But I understand the argument that some people have. So let me bounce this off you guys. This argument where, if somebody is offended, it doesn't matter like who it is. The fact is, if they are triggered by it, if they are kind of offended, we should change it anyway. And I think that's a very slippery slope. Anybody can say they're offended about anything. Well, we're gonna go and change logos off everything now. And I don't understand this whole obsessiveness with the Redskins and how the Redskins got pulled into this whole movement that's happening nowadays. I do not understand.
But see, that's why we have courts. You know what I mean?
Right.
And to me, that's what I look at. Like I said, checks and balances, and let's go to courts.
Right.
These kind of things can be in the public opinion all everybody wants, and the nasty people that come after people. I don't know if they come after you, they come after me when I post articles on there. But the whole thing about it is it has to go through the government, and it has. It's gone through the all the court system. It's gone through everything, and it's not a new issue. And if it was a new issue, like I said, we have to sit down and address it and think about both sides. But you have a small number on the Smurfs. If it was so huge, this is what I argued with I forgot his name. He's a guy that used to be with ESPN. So he blocked me like they all do. But he just went after me hard and was like talking racist, whatever. I said, no racist. I said, let me just ask you. I said, when this was initially went on about 20 something years ago, went through the courts. And then what happened? Who brought it back? This guy named is Roy Halberter from the Oneida Tribe Nation. This guy is, you want to talk about, we don't have to get into politics or anything, but you want to talk about the Trump of the Native American community. That's who this guy is. And this guy, over this movement, the name change, he's quietly sat in the background. He was in the spotlight for a little bit, but this is a guy who I've talked to people that in that tribe that said they have seen their tribes get worse and poorer, and he's become the head of every single council. He's the head of the casino council, head of everything. He has become a millionaire to right now they think he'll be approaching billionaire status. If this goes through, they're saying, well, what does he have to gain? He has to gain a lot of money. And anytime to me, when you see somebody that's going to gain from a situation like this, I think that the message has been distorted, and people on their own community, like you said, their issues is poverty, alcoholism, addiction. Right. That's what's in the Native American community. Right. Just like any of our tribals in the world, our Aboriginals in Australia, our Eskimos in Alaska. It's a big problem there's no help that these guys are getting. So, like I said, what I want to see from Snyder is, stick to that, but do something more. They did something with the Wind Talkers. I think, what was it, 5 years ago, 6 years ago?
Something like that. Yeah.
I want to see more of that. I want to see more of that. I want to see more of a commitment to the military, considering we're in Washington, D.C. And it's regardless of where we're playing this year. In the next 10 years, if it's going to be Virginia, Maryland, definitely not D.C. They just need to get back to trying to bring the tradition here. This is going to go away when winning comes. And honestly, I truly feel as a Redskins fan, I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. The product that they're putting out right now, especially when it comes to drafting Kyle Smith, that's who my man that I have faith in more than Rivera is Kyle Smith, somebody I've been following a long time. I think this team is on such an upswing right now, especially in division. I feel that the coaching, the talent evaluation, the NFC East, Redskins are superior in that. Philadelphia is kind of rivaling us. I like what they do over there. But as far as the Dallas and the Giants do, it's Giants are just flipping coaches. We're at least keeping them for a couple years. You know what I mean? So I think we're in a situation to surprise a lot of people this year. Going to 500, winning that extra 9th game, that gets you a playoff spot, with the new rules, adding more teams this year. So to me, I think that this team with this kind of defense, it's sky's the limit. It's going to make, all this other nonsense. There's no sports. It's not just no football. It's no sports. So, the controversy is going to keep going until the subject matter changes. As soon as one incident happens in football, a fight happens in football, that's going to be the topic when it comes to name change stuff. All the other stuff is going to be there. There's going to be protests. There's going to be, kneeling. And that's fine. That's totally fine with me. Just let's play the game. That's what I want to see. All that I think they have a right to do it. Everyone has a right to say and do what they want to say. Let's just get back to football. Telling, a team, you got to do this, change your name. This is, like I said, this is just a narrative just been repeated over and over and over for us as Redskins fans. And now it's becoming a hip thing to follow.
Right. It's been going on literally our entire life just about.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
Especially, I mean, I was born in 1990. It's been going on since before
Your
I was
whole life,
born. I know that. Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, like you said, let's just think about that though. What a turnaround would it be if the Redskins did go 8-8? If you think about where they finished last year, just how big of an improvement that would be in one season. And that's a very realistic thing, I think, that the Redskins could actually do with this defense. I mean, you saw the blueprint in San Francisco last year. Just with a dominant front like they have, I really think that they could hover around 8-8, possibly even better, and they could surprise a lot of people with this coaching staff. And you're right, Kyle Smith, I think, is an absolute stud. I think they need to hurry up and just make him the GM, and I think we're on a very good trajectory, and we could make a lot of noise.
Yeah, no, this guy, the Cowboys fan on Facebook, made shared this meme about Ron Rivera being blown that he had to go to the Redskins, and it was like some stupid meme, but I commented on it, and I was like, you're going after Ron Rivera? I was like, you guys signed, like, you guys hired Mike McCarthy.
They hired what was left over. They hired what was left over.
Yeah, like, Ron Rivera chose the Redskins.
Right?
They wanted
to do this.
Right.
Every team in the East, Dallas and the Giants, wanted Rivera. It was well documented.
Yeah,
he went for us before other teams had a chance.
Yeah.
So they just say whatever they want.
He made it known that he chose the Redskins because he liked the way that they were going. He liked the way that they were set up. He liked the way Dan Snyder was talking to him about the direction he saw the franchise going. So. Yeah, it's just stupid. I think I saw the same meme though, where it was like Cam gets to go to New England and I get to go to Washington. What the hell? Which is funny. But.
It is funny. But speaking of Rivera, he actually had a very interesting quote regarding the uniforms. His quote was, "I like all white. I like all black. I'd like to do a camouflage for Salute to Service Week," which I absolutely love. That entire quote altogether. So Reed, let me go to you and get your immediate reaction to Rivera saying that.
Like we've been talking about for a while now, Kyle, they need to bring back the all whites. I think that's a good sign. I know that Jack Del Rio, who earlier in the offseason had been talking or retweeted a picture of the Redskins wearing all white. That made some news. You've been saying for a long time, Kyle, you want to see them incorporate some black in their uniform. I think that could be very cool. And the camouflage thing, that's interesting to me. I would love to see the way that they would make that look with a little gold trim or something with it. And maybe the numbers came. I don't know. I don't know how they would do it, but I'd be interested. And it's a good sign. Ron Rivera is a very big military person. He supports the military. He kind of uses tactics that are used in the military about stressing the importance of family and camaraderie. And I love what they're doing, and I love that quote from him. I'm always interested in the Redskins trying to change things up, switch it up with the uniforms.
Yeah, because I know with my father-in-law, he got a RG3, one of those camouflage Salute to Service jerseys, and I know that they have them. They have the concept, and you can always combine it with burgundy pants or something like that, and make it look good. So I absolutely love that idea from Rivera. Adam, what do you love about that?
Yeah, no, I think, the Salute to Service, I think what we were saying before, I think, put in more of an emphasis, not just one game a year, like they do, with Cancer Month in October, wearing pink. That's, if you notice that's died down a lot. They've offered it to players, but nobody's mandated to wear the colors. And I noticed this past year, I pay attention to that. I don't know why. I always pay attention. And I noticed very few players wearing it. So with the camo, what I'm hoping is it's just going to be something that they'll just make a big campaign. And they seem to really have turned around, at least with their online marketing department. Firing Brian LaFamia and the rest of his guys is a big mistake. But the guys that they're and the girls that they have running actually look like they're doing a good job. So I think it's an extension of them right now. And I think that if they listen to the fans and stuff, and I really do, I have a feeling, Rivera makes himself available on Twitter, and Doc Walker and all these guys who I've talked to in the past, and, they've been more like you guys had, Morgan Moses on, times are different now. People
right.
like you and me and us, even though we're not ESPN and whatever, we're still representing the fan base. And
Yeah.
I think this is a change from what we've seen in the past with people like Gruden, even Shanahan. They were not this hands-on with the fan base, and it's just a different culture.
Jay Gruden was hands-on with that girl.
Yes, he sure was. And I had a conversation with the guys, the whole guys. I think it was like DC Mayor was his tag or something that filmed him, and when that was going on, I had a conversation with him about it the next night after it happened. And it was so and so had it so the cameras got broken out, but it got apparently it went a lot farther than people know. But I don't know. I don't know these people.
I like to talk about. I lost respect as soon as he was sitting Indian style.
Right.
With, like, his shoes off.
Like
on the sidewalk.
Right.
All he was a Birkenstocks.
He looked like he was like a surf bro. Like he's like 18-year-old surf bro hanging out outside the bar. It's like
I just think the picture of him with the cigarette in his mouth and like he's staring at the camera, like he knows like this guy just took a picture of me, and he just there's no soul in those eyes. He just looks dead. He's like, I don't care. My job's gone anyway at this point. He just stares right back. The best.
So Adam, you are a big scout guy. You do a lot of work. You actually interviewed Kyle Duggar way before a lot of people knew who he was. So about these small school prospects. The NFL just released it. They're going to be deleting 2 games from the preseason. There's only going to be 2 games for the teams in preseason, 1 home and 1 away. So what is the impact that you see on the players being able to that are going to get cut, that haven't been able to really showcase themselves like they would have in years past? What is your opinion on that?
I'll tell you, I've got, for the first, I've been doing the Burgundy and Gold report now this is going to be the 3rd off season. But this year was the first time that I actually was, talking one-on-one, like you mentioned, Kyle Duggar, with prospects. After the Kyle Duggar interview that was back in November, a couple of guys got at, his name rose. So I started getting tapes and DMs from other players. But so I'm actually in contact with players right now. So I'm actually, one of the few guys that got a call as an undrafted free agent was a guy that I talked to was Ernest Edwards, which was from wide receiver from Maine University.
San Francisco, right?
Oh, wow.
No, he's with the Rams right now.
Rams. Oh,
Rams.
That's a wrong Cali team.
Yeah, it's all good. And two other guys that I've actually a couple other guys. I've got two corners. It's so many that I'm going through. Joseph McWilliams from Grambling, Javon Ferguson from New Mexico State, which in 2018 he led the nation in tackles as a middle linebacker. I really was hoping the Redskins would look at him as an undrafted free agent. So there's a couple of guys that I have firsthand knowledge. I check in with them, if they talk to teams, and one thing they're telling me is it's radio silence, but their agents and their agencies are telling them that this is going to be a different kind of off season. Usually they're getting call-ins, interviews to come by and do workouts. It's not going to be like that this year. What's going to happen for a lot of these players is, yes, these guys, unfortunately, they're going to have to make money. So, hopefully they got a good agent, whatever, and they're having some kind of side hustle, because they're going to probably have to wait till after officially week 1, week 2 gets underway before they probably get a legit shot to get signed. Whoever's on the rosters now, I have a feeling you're going to see some, guys be plugged in and out just like every year. But the amount of undrafted free agents, I think, is going to be the least we've ever seen probably in the history of the game. And I think in the years past, we've seen an influx of these players getting signed. We talked about Kyle Duggar, another guy that I didn't get to interview him, but I was in his tape was my favorite tape. I think it was 2017, 2018 was Darius Leonard, the Colt. So he came from South Carolina State.
Mm-hmm.
He was another guy that, people had in the 5th round. And I just saw, just that raw talent. He went to the Colts, 35th overall, second round, just like Duggar. It's coincidence, the two top guys. They both went, 3 rounds higher than, projected. But what's that telling you is like someone like me, it's like, I will not argue that I know more than people. I trained under Lewis Riddick and, really some really good guys over the Scotland Academy, and just learned, some of the ins and outs. But I'll be the first one to tell you, I'm learning every day. Even on Twitter, people with the arguments, I always get something out of that. I try not to engage. But one thing I've learned is, not to be a sheep and just follow who everyone's watching. And getting into small school prospects, it started with Darius Leonard, and that's when since then is when I really got into it. And I talk on probably a weekly basis. I just sent a DM to a couple of these players, and they're not getting calls. So to me, it's just I feel terrible from it. This is hitting them, probably their livelihood, because everyone knows undrafted free agent, it just takes one opportunity, and these guys just aren't going to get it this offseason, because now teams are announcing they're not going to bring 90 to camp, even though they're allowed to. They're going to be bringing a lot less. So my heart breaks for especially a lot of guys I talk to, because I just see so much raw talent that they could be really good on the next level.
Yeah, and you think about guys like James Harrison, undrafted free agent, made a career and was really good, just needed an opportunity. And I think you're absolutely right about that. So, Reed, your immediate reaction to the NFL taking it down to 2 games, why do you think they're doing it? And do you think it's going to be that huge of a difference in playing style for the NFL come the season?
Well, I mean, I think we kind of understand what we kind of saw it going in that direction. I think that them shortening the preseason, especially this year. But if you think about it, like last year, a player like Steven Sims, he really came on the last 2 preseason games, and if this year he wouldn't have a chance to make the team after that.
Exactly.
So we only brought in 4 undrafted free agents. So I think we kind of sensed that. So we didn't bring in as many guys. We brought in guys that we really actually thought could make the team. So it's going to be, it's interesting. I mean, it's going to be weird for sure, but I understand why they're doing it. Like Adam said, this is just a different offseason. It's the way things are right now, and it's the way that it's going to be. But one thing that I thought was interesting is the canceling of the supplemental draft. I understand why they did it, but if you think about it, there might not be a college season this year. So if that were to get canceled, think about the Trevor Lawrences and these people who are just going to say, you know what, fuck it, I'll just enter the supplemental draft. I'm just going to go in that way. I'll just make the league this year. And they go and the NFL got ahead of that. They're like, no, not yet. We still need to have people just in case there's a draft.
Right.
So it's interesting. I don't know. It's a different offseason, and this year is just going to be different in every sport. But until things kind of come around, it's the way it's going to be.
Yeah, look, I thought that the writing was on the wall for a while for the NFL preseason. Coaches just weren't playing anybody. They were doing it strategically, playing guys at certain times. And this was almost like I felt like this was going to happen one way or another. There's other ways to combat it, having joint practices, maybe with joint scrimmages with other teams and stuff like that. They try to combat it with the competition level and everything. But it's not like, in my opinion, I felt like the NFL put those games up there strategically and on purpose. Putting the Ravens on there week 4 when the Redskins play the Ravens a month later, I thought was kind of telling in a way where they were just like, this is going to be a throwaway game anyway. So I always felt like this was in the cards.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I always felt like this was in the cards, and this is just another roadblock. Just say, yep, let's just go ahead and do that. That way everyone feels like we're doing something to get ahead of this. I think the NFL is way too smart. They know the type of money that's on the line right now, and they're going to move ahead with the season regardless of what everyone in the media and Fauci has to say.
Right.
So the next thing I wanted to get into, something we weren't able to discuss on Tuesday because we were so worked up about being able to interview Morgan Moses, but Cam Newton signed with the New England Patriots, a $1.05 million contract. That's a low contract. And he said he's not worried about the money. It's about respect. So Reed, let me go to you. How big are the implications here with Cam, speaking in fantasy and real life football in that division?
I don't know. It's going to be, because of the way the offseason is, it's going to be tough to really gauge until they start playing some games, especially with Bill Belichick. You never really know what he's going to do, but all the reports are still indicating that they're planning on going with Stidham right now. I mean, they're planning on proceeding with that. And we don't know. Cam appears to be healthy. Everything that I've heard says that he's healthy. And if he's healthy and he's pissed off, that's a scary guy. Like Cam Newton is, let's make no mistake about it. Just because he didn't play too well last year, he's still a very talented quarterback. He's still very good with all those traits that you want in your guy. But it's going to be interesting. I don't know really what's going to happen. You never know with the Patriots. You never know what they're going to do in any situation, especially this. Who knows? Maybe Jarrett Stidham comes out and lights the world on fire all throughout camp and in the preseason, and maybe he is their guy. Or maybe Cam comes out, this lights a fire under his ass, and he comes out and he just destroys the entire NFL. Like, I don't know, which I can see it going either way. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I thought it was really funny because we talked about it before on the podcast, but I felt like Miami was really gearing themselves to be put in a position to win the division this year. And the reason why I say that is because they spent a lot of their cap space on veterans. Then they use their top 5 pick to go get a quarterback, and everyone knows your best route to the Super Bowl is in a rookie contract with a quarterback. I felt they were gearing up for that. They were getting ready to make a run with the Bills, and then all of a sudden the Patriots come in with the grenade and light them up with Cam Newton. I think the Patriots are back in the lead in the division right now, and I'm going to be honest about that. I think the way Josh McDaniels calls offense, Cam Newton having a chip on his shoulder, just like you said, Reed, and also with Belichick calling the defense. On top of him getting Kyle Duggar, I said if the Patriots get Kyle Duggar, it's a problem. And I even wrote in my scouting report, I have the book here somewhere. I wrote in there his best fit was for the Patriots. Yep. And if he was getting coached up by Bill Belichick, he could be like Ty Law, Marvin Harrison. He could be very, very good. So let me go to you, Adam. What do you think about Cam going to New England? Do you think it's going to shape out the division like I do?
It's all about health. So what you have to consider is, see, Cam Newton. He's a guy I've been following for a very long time. Back to his days in Florida. And this was a guy that let's just say morals. He's done a lot of good things with the community, but in Florida, he's got a reputation. His family has a reputation. So as far as how he's going to mesh with Bill Belichick, that's one thing I think that fans need to watch and not just assume that it's going to work right away. Because, we're talking about Randy Moss. When Randy Moss went there, it was good, but it wasn't, all peaches and cream. And Cam Newton is definitely a lot more of a personality than Randy Moss is by far. Yeah. But if you just want to talk about X's and O's and on the field wise, no doubt, Sony Michel, their running back, is a guy that I love. And I think that, him with Cam, if they can open up, some zone read RPO. But the question it comes back to, I don't think that Cam Newton's going to sign for that much money and then say, well, I'm not going to run this or I'm not going to run that, like we famously heard about, RG3. Right. Yeah. So I think that he's going to be willing to do anything. So I think that's a dangerous Cam Newton right now. That's a guy that's hungry. And I think Patriots, with that one move, Jarrett Stidham, he's not started. let's go watch it. Even in college, he was, if he can't,
he was always right.
Yeah, he was up and down. You know what I mean? I'm an Alabama fan, through and through, and I'm not hating. I know his game, and he's not going to play over, Cam Newton. So I think that right now that they definitely will have that upper hand in that division. I think this is the year that we're going to find out, is it Bill Belichick? Is it Brady? It's going to be a hard thing to say because Brady's 40-something years old. Right. So we can just play it how the scenario is. It's something we always want to do as fans, comparing, players and players. But, if we're talking about if Bill Belichick can continue, an 11, 13 games winning season, and then Tom Brady in Tampa Bay, what everyone thinks is, they've already done them the champions of the division with 12 wins. But you still got to go through some other good teams last I checked. I think Bill Belichick will definitely have the chance to have the better season than over the kid.
Yeah, and look, and I think you're right, and I think that there is no way Jarrett Stidham is starting. Cam Newton's going to win this job,
but guys, all the reports say that they like him.
Right, but look, I'm going to sit here and tell you, Cam signing that $1 million contract says one thing, is that he's bought in. He's ready to go, and he'll do whatever it needs to make the next level, because everyone in the league knows what it means when you go to New England and what you have to do when you're there.
There's no surprises there. Right. I think the reputation supersedes itself, and if you're a player, they know a lot more than you and me do. So I think you don't go there thinking, well, I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to change the situation. I think if you go there, you know what's up. And Cam Newton, it's not. I wouldn't necessarily call it a make or break. But with the situation with quarterbacks and the way the NFL is trending, this is a huge year for him. If he doesn't have a big year, he could be out of the NFL, because I don't look at him as, okay, he's a guy that could be a backup on your team. To me, he's a starter and nothing.
No, and I heard people say that, he lacking the wide receiver talent. Look, I'll be honest. I think that he's going to fit just fine. And I understand that they have 2 rookie tight ends, but don't count out Josh McDaniels, okay? I'm going to tell you that right now. Yeah. And then they also have the two-headed monster in James White and Sony Michel, so they can get the ball on the outside for Cam, which, look, I'm not going to lie to anybody. the Patriots offense last season, the passing offense did not go above 20 yards. It was everything short. It was getting the guys out in space, and Cam Newton can do that easily without a problem. And so
without an off season or anything.
Right.
See, that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the benefit. You know, people talk about Stidham's been there. It doesn't matter because that offense is going to be shifted to him anyways. So right away, he is plug and play. You know, even with Stidham on the team, you know, it's just going to be the kind of situation that I think that once he gets in there, you know, he gets acclimated. No matter, you know, are we talking about 2 preseason? You know, I think that we might not even preseason. That's my opinion. I think it'll all come down to it. They'll probably call preseason. They'll maybe talk about some scrimmages, and then, you know, we'll have even an abbreviated season, you know. But the way it's going, I think Cam Newton's a situation where he can come in and they can run what they want with him, because Bill Belichick, one thing that he's shown is he's going to willing to adapt it. So you don't bring in a player like Cam Newton with a personality like that and say, you're going to play the way I want you to play. You know?
Yeah. And look, I think he fits perfectly with them, because I feel like Edelman actually fits with Steve Smith, what he did later on in his career. Look, I understand he's not as fast as Steve Smith. Steve Smith is a Hall of Famer, but going cross field, being able to just run out that play, I think Wes Welker and Cam are gonna. Julian Edelman and Cam are gonna link up perfectly, and I think that's not going to be an issue at all. And then you talk about Mohamed Sanu. Every wide receiver besides Steve Smith that Cam had in Carolina was a big, tall wideout, and Mohamed Sanu was the first guy that found out about it. I think that is significant. I think that he could have a very good year. I think they're going to fit in perfectly fine in New England. And like I said, with Bill Belichick calling the plays on defense and Josh McDaniels finding the right plays for Cam Newton to gel, I think they're going to be just fine. The only question is, can they beat Buffalo, who showed out really well last season?
And the whole Cam not necessarily fitting in with Belichick. I understand Belichick's different than any other coach in the NFL, but Cam did fit in with Ron. Ron Rivera loves Cam Newton. Ron Rivera is similar in the sense of
discipline-wise.
Kind of right, yeah. They're very similar in that they're both defensive-minded. They're both kind of run a tight ship, but kind of like to be very close with their players. I think Cam will fit in well with Belichick. Belichick might end up being the best thing that ever happened to Cam in the second part of his career. So,
hello, Sleeping Beauty.
Can't even see you right
Can't
now.
even see you. Where's your lighting, dude?
that wasn't a race joke either. I really is your lights off.
So good.
It's good to see you, Hall. Thank you for joining us tonight, sir. I appreciate it. But we were just talking about Cam going to New England. And look, I know you don't worry about your camera, dude. It's fine. But I wanted to get your opinion on Cam going to New England, because we're sitting here talking that the Bills are still number one that they're going to have to go through. Do you think New England's going to still stay on top this year?
Yes. First of all, how you doing, Adam? Nice to have you.
Hey, how you doing? Appreciate it.
Yeah. Second of all, I think Cam to New England is actually going to be a perfect fit. Josh McDaniels in his past had Tim Tebow as like a kind of that mobile quarterback in that offense.
That's right. Made it work.
Yeah, he made it work.
Very true. Very good. A great example.
Yeah.
Josh McDaniels is a very I don't want to say creative mind on offense, but he can definitely.
There's a reason that he's
exactly
one of the biggest OCs every year.
Yeah, exactly. I think that Cam's going to hit the ground running in New England. He seems perfectly healthy from all the videos he's putting out on social media. Obviously, he took that super, super low contract, so he's betting on himself, which means that in his mind, he's 100% healthy and he's ready to dominate. So I think they're going to be a mid-pack contender for the Super Bowl next year. Not like a top tier like Ravens Chiefs Super Bowl contender, but middle of the pack around the Texans, Titans, those kind of teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Now, Adam, you have briefly talked about you have an article coming out very soon. If you wanted to briefly discuss it with us, if we want to have a chat about it, about the linebackers of the Redskins, I'd love to hear your brief summary.
Yeah, so basically, I think a lot of the talk is going in, the defensive line and the upgrades they're making with, Chase Young and, all the first rounders and, like we mentioned, the San Francisco blueprint that they're doing. So, I made an article touched on the linebacker situation with, the biggest unknown right now, which is Reuben Foster. And, after Reuben Foster dealt with the knee injury in the camp, I looked at Jalen Smith from the Cowboys and the injury that he sustained in Notre Dame coming out and how similar they were and the nerve damage that both of them had. And when news surfaced, I believed it was around January or even maybe late February that the nerves just started firing in his foot. That was a big, that was a big red flag to me. A lot of people have been penciled in him as ready to start. I think right now, PUP is the best situation. Because if he does make the play this season, it's going to be abbreviated because this type of injury, tearing all 3 major ligaments in his knee and nerve damage, this guy's not going to be ready. So, what I wanted to write about is some of the upgrades, I think fans are looking at, with our stable guys. And I think that we did not do enough in the offseason, bringing back Bostic. To me, that was a move for more depth. I think a lot of people have penciled him in as, the guy that's going to be, our starting Mike coming in. But, again, it comes back to the Alabama pedigree. But, a guy that I love is Sean Dion Hamilton. And I think he showed what we're looking for in a coverage linebacker, what Del Rio, what Rivera are looking for in a coverage linebacker. Holcomb, he's a guy I love. I wrote about an article about him last year when he was coming up. And, I actually had conversations with his father about, a little bit of, his background from being a walk-on to North Carolina to starting. That every year he's got progressively better and better. This guy is a sponge. So, I touched on my article about, Sean Dion Hamilton and Holcomb. They're just 2 guys that we really need to, I think, get a little more excited about because if we didn't have that kind of defensive line in front of them so stout, you could be like, well, they're going to have to do a lot. They're going to have to shed a lot. These guys aren't going to have to do a lot of block shedding. Keep that in mind. Under this scheme, it's going to be attack. It's going to be our defensive line just putting pressure and attack. You're talking about running through holes. Holcomb and Sean Dion Hamilton are both guys that are running in the late 4.4s, 4.5 speed. That's what people need to realize.
And the one knock on Holcomb coming out of college was that he couldn't get off blocks. He couldn't shed blocks. So you let that guy roam like that?
Right. And, I think the biggest knock that I always had on him and the reason that he, fell so far in the draft is he was still playing more a read and react type of ball. And, if people looked at, Luke Kalichi, the linebacker they had there, look at his Boston College tape. And granted, he had great instincts coming out,
very
he
smart
was
guy.
a very smart guy. Not that I'm comparing him at all, but he was playing a lot of read and react ball too. That's a big transition you come from the college level. Middle linebacker, is something that, I've really tried to brush up on. Like every position, it's like a different sport when it comes to evaluating a position. Middle linebacker in the 4.3 is a totally different bird. And people have pointed to, SDH's size is a detriment, and same with Cole Holcomb's, that they want to see bigger, stronger. That's not the way the game is trending right now.
It's not.
So, that's why, the Khalid Hudson, that's another guy that I touched on in the article. I do think this is a guy that, we should have, be cautiously optimistic and project him as somebody, as a special teams guy to begin with a ton of upside. But this is a guy that, where they envisioned Josh Harvey Clemens having that role. And granted, I like the size, the weight that he added. He just never really materialized into a player that could help us. I think Khalid Hudson is that guy. We're talking about a guy that had major production at Michigan. I think they call him the dragon position. I forgot what they labeled him as. Basically, safety, linebacker, outside pass rusher, hybrid guy.
Yeah.
And I love that, and that's why I'm a huge fan of Kyle Smith, because he loves these hybrid guys. So, in my article, I just mentioned what we're going to see out of these guys. People are really, really stuck, especially look on Twitter, between the Mike, the Sam, and the Will. I think you're going to see a lot of things interchangeable this year. I think it's going to be something we're not used to as a guy, fancy in the 3-4. You're going to see a lot of these guys coming out. You're going to see Chase Young being put in a linebacker situation in a strong side, in my opinion, in certain packages. So just looking at Del Rio's tape, this is where I get this. I saw what they did with Julius Peppers, Von Miller, and other guys that he had, and I think they have a vision. So what's going to happen is the linebackers are going to truly benefit off that situation. So I think by bringing Thomas Davis in, to me, he's really rounding out the group. If he starts or if he doesn't, it's not really the main point. It's the leadership that he's going to provide. Right. His game has dipped. If you've looked over the years, he is not the best tackle. He's been missing more tackles than he has in the past. But the kind of football IQ that he's going to provide to these linebackers, because like I said, Sean Dion Hamilton is extremely intelligent. So is Holcomb. This is brain, speed, strength, raw football IQ. So I think this defense has been being, even though it's Gruden, we've had bad years, there's been a dedication to building this defense through the draft. And I think this is what's got me most excited. And after this article, they'll actually have one coming about the wide receivers, because just like this situation, we're talking about another position of a bunch of young guys, a lot of unproven, a lot of projection. But I think as fans, we can't just go on stats and numbers. You have to look at new coaches coming in, do the work. Me personally, of course, I'm going to say, it's more than a hobby. But, the Carolina tape, I just happened to be following a couple other players, and I caught Scott Turner's last 5 games in Carolina, and they were legitimately different looking games when his father was coaching that game. And I think what we're going to see, going back to the offense, is a combination of an Air Coryell, read option kind of offense. I think when you see the Dwayne Haskins, the weight loss, the way he's moving, I don't think this is what I'm going to have some, might catch some slack on. I don't think he's doing all this to show off. I think he's really had talks with the coaches and about expectations. And I think this is something they talked about. They want to get him out of the pocket. They want to get him moving. That some of the things that were done with Cam, they're going to want to do with him, which is going to shock a lot of people. But I'm telling you, before all this weight loss, before this even happened, he's got almost 20 pounds now since Ohio State. This guy, we're going to see some things out of a Washington quarterback that we haven't seen in a long time. As far as can they capitalize, I think that's why they've invested in speed. And with a guy like Gibson that we brought in, I'm all over the place just because it just gets me so excited because I love the youth. I'm a draft guy. And to see a team with so many draft picks are going to make the team, I think sky's the limit. And, regardless what happens, if they play an abbreviated season or not, this team is going to be in it. This is not going to be the stupid mistakes, the ridiculous dumb plays.
Yep.
I think these are going to be close games, close wins, close losses. We're going to get a couple blowout wins on the Redskins side here and there. But in the end, I like the way this whole situation is trending, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and directly going to your point, I think what Thomas Davis does is he brings the equation somebody that can get guys in place pre-snap, during the play. That way they're in position, because last year and the year before, when you talk to guys around the team, the one thing they said was miscommunication on plays.
Right.
One guy playing a certain play and that not being it, and not hearing it from the DB calling it, or not hearing it in the huddle, whatever have you. So I think Thomas Davis here is just going to get guys in position to make plays. And look, we've said it. We think he's better closer to the line of scrimmage, because in a 4-3 you do not want. I'm sorry to say, but Thomas Davis out in space a lot, especially in the passing game. And that's where, like you said, Khaleke Hudson comes into play. He was a phenomenal blitzer coming from the secondary there.
One game in Michigan, he had 8 tackles for a loss or something like that. He set the record, the Big Ten record. The Big
ferocious.
Yeah, that's Mike's boy.
Yeah,
so many plays in the
I did a breakdown on him pre-draft.
Yeah, you did. That's right.
Oh, I did. Did you really?
Yeah.
I did not even realize that, dude. That's absolutely incredible.
It's awesome. There's nothing better than that, man. When you break down a player, and that happened with me and Danny Johnson. That happened, although Duggar didn't go to the Redskins, the fact he went to the Patriots, like you said, that made me as happy as a Redskins fan. I'm a guy that I was evaluated in and out. There's nothing better than seeing them going somewhere in a position that, they're going to thrive,
That was AGG for me.
Yeah, I did AGG for us and Antonio Gibson.
Oh, yeah. Those are my 2 guys,
did you
man.
Really?
Those are my 2 number ones. Those are my 2 most film watched in the offseason next to Duggar was Gibson and AGG.
Yeah, that's my man right there too.
Yeah, Brian Edwards, I had a real crush on. I love.
Me too. We talked about Edwards, you and me, before. Yeah, Raiders did. They're getting a lot of slack, and that I think because they passed on Judy and Lamb. But man, people are sleeping on how good Ruggs. And that combination of Ruggs
and Edwards.
You're talking about Judy. I love Judy, but if you're talking about Ruggs and Edwards with their current situation, I think Raiders did just fine. And Denver with Judy is. That's the team. That's the team everyone needs to watch this year. The Denver offense is one of the sickest teams in the league this year.
Yep.
Yeah, that's one thing me and Hall have been stressing about that Denver. We expect Drew Lock to have a huge year, and Kyle completely sold me on Brian Edwards after breaking down his film. I was like, I love this guy too. Why isn't he going to be picked higher right now?
Yeah, my player comp for him was Anquan Bolden. I felt like I was watching him all over again, and this was just a young version of him. The tough mentality, the way that he just runs through the tackles. He's not the way he goes after the football, I thought was the biggest indicator between him and Anquan Bolden. I thought that was a perfect comparison. All right, everybody. Well, I appreciate you guys for stopping by. Again, Adam, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on to the show again, sir.
Thank
you were
Adam.
great.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me on. It's crazy. The time is crazy. Right at the end, I just lose power in my house.
Oh.
We got
I
a
was
storm
wondering
coming
what
through.
happened.
So it's just like boom, man. But at least I can see. But listen, thanks for having me on, man. I just want to give a shout out to all the readers out there for the Burgundy and Gold Report. Again, like we talked about, how my linebacker article coming out, burgundyandgoldreport.wordpress.com. You can get me on Twitter at the BNG Report, lowercase r. But man, thanks for having me on. Like, seeing you guys have, Morgan Moses on, man. You guys are doing big things. So don't forget.
And now you're
don't
back.
forget
Clean
about
up.
independent guy like me, guys.
Go get out of here, Adam.
Yeah.
You know that would never happen, brother.
I'm excited to read your article. Seriously.
Yeah,
I'm pumped. I'm
it's gonna be a
pumped
great
to read
read.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, your reputation precedes you. You interviewed Kyle Duggar before anybody really knew about him, and you've done a lot of good work here. So everyone go check out the BNG Report on Twitter. Everyone go like and share our podcast on YouTube, iTunes, Google Pods, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Thank you so much for coming by today, guys. We'll see you on Tuesday. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall, even though I was late.
And I'm Ryan Cleveland.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to Bergen's Den. We'll see you next week. Redskins football. Woo!
Yeah.
Audio Jungle.